In a new op-ed called Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren Will Never Forgive Me, our next guest warns about the downfalls of debt forgiveness.
Here to explain is University of Chicago law student Ethan Ames. Ethan, good morning. Great article. Why did you write this article?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I wrote this article because I was watching the last Democratic presidential debates, and I just could not believe what I was hearing from Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, because I thought that it just seemed like pandering, and I also thought that it made it less likely that they were going to win in 2020, because although these policies may be popular with a small subset of, distressed borrowers, I think, the American public at large is opposed to them, and so I just don't think it's going to be, a winning strategy for them.
Ethan, it's a very well written, and you're clearly very bright. Tell the folks at home who haven't read this what your experience has been.
Yeah, so, the op-ed begins discussing my personal background, and so I began school at the University of South Carolina, and after a semester there, although I enjoyed it, I just knew that it wasn't going to be worth the amount of money that I was paying for it. So I decided to transfer to a less expensive school, the University of Toledo, and pursued a degree in accounting, which is a highly employable major. And so after graduating from the University of Toledo, which I did in 3 years, I started working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a large accounting firm, and worked there for a year to save money before now attending law school at the University of Chicago.
And Ethan, you say, look, you attended a less expensive school to get a degree in a subject providing a safer path to repayment. You see this really as unfair to people like you, what Sanders and Warren are proposing.
Yeah, exactly. When I think back to my time at the University of Toledo and all of my classmates there, a lot of students that were there, again, were not passionate about accounting, but they knew that college was expensive, and they knew that they were going to have to repay any loans that they took out. And so they took, active measures, as did I, to reduce the amount of borrowing, and then also chose a major that was going to provide them a good paying job after graduation. And so I think that these types of policies punish those people because, they suffered, an opportunity cost loss, essentially, during college by making those tough decisions. And now, essentially, for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to tell those people like me, that those sacrifices are essentially valueless because we could have just taken out as much loans as we wanted and they were just going to forgive them anyways. Yeah. And so that's kind of, when the op-ed talks about ex post facto, that's what that means. It's essentially, this is a retroactive policy change because these loans were taken out before this policy existed. And so that's what's particularly perverse about these kinds of policies.
What I love about your story, though, is I'm reading this article, and at first I'm feeling sorry for you because you really wanted to go to Denison University, but it was too expensive, the prestigious private school in Ohio. You had to go, then you went to the University of South Carolina. You were paying more than $17,000 a year. You said that was the cost of a Honda Civic. So then you went back home to Ohio, and you ended up going to a state school there. And then you got your degree, and you said you had to get your degree in accounting because you knew you could pay back your loans, even though you really wanted to study political science. But through hard work, living at home with your parents, saving money, you are able to pay off your loans, and now you're in law school studying, according to this article, what you really wanted to study all along, which was political science. You write in the article that you're worried that these campaign promises are going to be forgotten. So kids are going to hear a free school, they're going to go to Denison, which is their first choice, but it's going to be so outrageously expensive, and then these politicians are going to get elected, and they're not going to be able to do this and pay it back. Is that your fear?
Yeah, I think that that's accurate. So, when you think about something like the stock market, when you look at the 2017 tax cuts that were passed, the market was pricing those into, the price of securities long before the Tax Act was passed. And so much like that, we're going to see students looking at the election, looking at polls, and looking at the candidates that they think are going to win. And if that candidate is Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, then I think it's very likely that they're going to start choosing a more expensive school. If they're between two schools, they're going to pick a major that's a little bit more risky, and possibly we could even see people stop paying their student loans if it looks like a really sure bet that they are going to get elected.
And we might, Ethan, see if this came through, the Warren-Sanders plan, $1.6 trillion in debt erased. I'm not sure they can handle that number. I'm not sure the country can. But Ethan, thank you, and great piece. Thanks for being here.
Go Gamecocks, Ethan. Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.